I welcome you warmly. My name is Bernd Zeitler and I'm a master saddler, certified saddle fitter and instructor. My charming colleague here is Marion and the demo horse is Carlo. First, I would like to explain the tools needed to make and fit a made-to-measure saddle correctly. You need a tape measure, a flexible ruler for assessing the width of the gullet, and a spirit level. Obtainable at good building suppliers. Let me first explain how to measure the width of the gullet, for which you need the flexible ruler. One option is to put an existing saddle of the right size on the horse and mark the spot where its points are. The other option is to feel the top end of the shoulder plate and add 2 fingers' breadth to its width, thus marking the correct spot for placing the flexible ruler on the horse's withers. Press the ruler against the horse's body and shape it following its contours. Repeat the process on the offside. The resulting shape or outline is then transferred onto a sheet of paper, standard size being fully sufficient. Follow the contours of the ruler on the paper with a ball pen and don't forget to mark the exact center of your line drawing with a dot. To avoid mistakes in the factory, don't forget to put the horse's name on the paper. The top line of our modern horses varies widely and often are a far cry from the ideal. Hence, it is important to document the top line and shape of the horse's back with our flexible friend, the ruler. To do this, you look for the point 2 fingers behind the shoulder plate. Starting from there, you put the ruler along the horse's back and press it firmly against the spinal process. Take it off carefully and transfer the silhouette onto the back of the paper sheet you used before to draw the withers. It might be a good idea to now also take a digital photo of the horse and the ruler sitting along its back. The drawing taken until now will show the saddler only an outline of the back. To be able to produce the correct panels, he will need a measurement. For this, you need the spirit level and a tape measure. Start by looking for our point behind the shoulder and follow it upwards to the top of the withers. Here, I place my spirit level and bring it into a perfect horizontal position. Now I measure the distance between the lowest point of the horse's back and the bottom edge of the spirit level. This measurement tells the saddler how thick or high the panels need to be and how much twist the saddle needs. It is important to put this figure on a sheet of paper. When the saddle arrives from the factory, we put it onto our horse to check its fit. We must girth it up, and on a strange horse, one must be careful because the risk of saddle sore or cold back. The first check is the width of the gullet. To do this, we look for the points of the saddle tree, which can either be seen under the flaps or which lie directly underneath the little leather roll along the front of the saddle flaps. The angle of the head of the saddle tree should always be parallel to the top ends of the shoulder blades or trapezius muscle. The next point to check is the center of gravity of the saddle. For this you look for the center of the seat, which means you try to find the lowest point of the saddle. Ideally, this should also be the lowest point of the horse's spine curvature. Correct width of gullet and center of gravity of the saddle result in a correct seat of the rider. In dressage, the line from shoulder to hip to heel should be vertical and straight. If, for example, the width of the gullet was too narrow and the back end of the panels too thin, the center of gravity of the saddle would tip backwards. The rider sit too far back, the legs are at the same time coming too far forward, resulting in a painful back of the horse and the rider. In the opposite case of the gullet being too wide and the panels too thick or high at the back, the center of gravity would move forward, like in this exaggerated demonstration. This would result in the rider leaning forward and bringing his legs too far back, producing soreness in the lower back. In high-withered horses, this would result in a sore wither and be very painful. The last check in fitting a saddle concerns its full and even contact with the horse's back. For this check, I lift the back end of the saddle a small bit and stick my hand underneath it, back to fore, and pulling it back slowly. Doing this, I should feel an even slight pressure all along, indicating that this saddle sits evenly and snugly on this horse. Should I feel less pressure under the center of the saddle and more of it under the front and back, the saddle bridges. It places more weight on the front and back ends, resulting in great discomfort for the horse. Head shaking, twisted necks, and an uncomfortable ride should result from this. Again, if I do the same thing and feel more pressure under the center, the saddle rocks, meaning it has too much stuffing in the middle of the panel. The weight of the rider and saddle will eventually be dislodged, particularly by trotting, and brought forward onto the shoulders and withers. Consequently, the horse's performance in extended and lateral gaits will suffer, and he will be in pain. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.